This is the Motor City Crowns Podcast, where passion reigns and excellence is crowned. Welcome back to the Motor City Crowns Podcast. I'm your host, Robert Solano Sanchez, and today I have an amazing artist on today, Darius Baber. How you doing, Darius? Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
What I've known about you, you've done portraits, you've done murals, and even some large-scale digital pieces, and all of them are amazing pieces of work. And I brought you on the podcast because I feel like your art that you create, you do it with such passion and it really brings people together. You are known for using pastels and oils a lot. And with that, you create intimate pieces of art. And I want to take a moment to give you your flowers and tell you that you've truly earned your crown. So congratulations.
I appreciate that.
Thank you. Now, I've actually gotten two pieces of art done by you, and we talked about it a little bit before. The one of the pieces was my grandfather that my sister had contacted you. This was probably almost 10 years ago now. I think it was 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And you tell me that you actually remember doing that piece. And it was back in a time, it was, I just remember my sister, she goes, there's this guy. He does really good artwork and I want to get something done since grandpa had passed away. And I said, sure, let me help you out with it. You know, I'm thinking it was going to be a whole lot of money. You had some special going on. It was $100. And I'm like, oh, this is great. It's going to be amazing. You know, like hopefully it comes out really great. And we got it. And we were blown away. And it was like immediate. We were crying just looking at it because it was still fresh that our grandfather just passed, and giving that as a gift to our parents, especially my mom, it was amazing because you didn't just create a picture based on a picture. You created it with the emotion and the feeling and almost like thought inside of him.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was beautifully well, you know, it was very well done. And there was another piece that you had done for me. My ex's brother, who was like a brother to me, he passed away during COVID, and now his family has it. And they tell me that they hang it up and it's something they look at every day. So I want to just tell you that I'm appreciated personally by your art. And I know that your art is, I'm sure many other people who've got art done by you feel very similar.
I appreciate that a lot. Most definitely.
So let's talk about like your background and how you got into art, and like what was your maybe education into it?
All right. So I feel like I have a very I'm lost for the word right now, but I have a very like simple story of how I got into art. And it's not over the top, you know. Like I was a kid, I was always like a creative kid, you know what I mean? I like digging holes and stuff like that, figuring out how stuff works. And I used to watch a lot of, you know, Toonami, just like all the rest of the kids in the 90s.
Yeah.
And so I had one of my friends who I used to do a lot of activities with, he started drawing, you know, and there was other kids in my class who've been drawing, stuff like that. And I never really tried to, but when my best friend got into it, we were competitive in everything. So I usually just got into drawing, just being competitive. But that was the first thing, because my friend who I was competitive with was super good at everything, like everything. He's one of those golden kids. But drawing was something I picked up and was like, you know, really not really good at it. But as soon as I like tried to do it and focused on it, I was able to like, you know, feel like I was better than him at it. You know what I mean? So it gave me like a confident boost. And it kind of was the first thing that I can remember that taught me that if I like try to do something and practice it, I can get good at it, you know? So, now this is one of my talents. I can draw anime characters pretty decently. And as I go up in school and stuff, I'm meeting other kids, and that's like my cool thing that I introduce myself as. I'm meeting other kids who are even better at it than me. You know what I mean? And so, like, eventually, just being jealous, a little jealous kid, I'm trying to get better at it. And the whole time, I feel like I'm just getting better at training myself, pretty much. You know what I mean? So by the time I get to, I think in like middle school, my parents started like sending me to art programs and stuff. I went to this one art program called the National Conference, National Artists Association, NCA,
Hmm.
National Conference of Artists, National Conference of Artists, NCA.
Yeah,
And one of the artists that run that is named Singor Reed. I don't know if you heard of him.
I've heard of him.
He's educator, artist, super accomplished artist, and his mother Shirley Woodson. They run National Conference Artists. So in that program, I did more like some more traditional things. You know what I mean? And, when you're a kid, you think you're good at something, you can't really be told nothing. But they were really good at like just introducing us to new things, and I met other artists who were kids who were into art. That was like their thing too. You know what I mean? I feel like that's when I actually considered it to be my thing. So now I'm going to school. I'm good in art always when I have art class, and I go to high school. By the time I go to high school, I had this art teacher named Carol Mariso. Carol Mariso is an artist in the city today. I think she's on the board at the Scarab Club. And I didn't know none of this when she was teaching me in high school. She was just a cool lady with locks who was real cool. I was a square in high school, so I didn't skip class or nothing like that. If I did skip class, I skipped class in art class. You know what I mean? And I would just
Yeah,
help her with her other classes and stuff like that. So like she was like my homie, and she was like the one teacher who didn't seem miserable, who didn't seem like she was at work. She was having fun. You know what I
that
mean?
always
And
makes
she
the
helped,
students a lot more
yeah.
safe with them.
And
Feel
she would
safe.
like she would tell us about what she was doing, like shows she would be in. She would tell us the galleries we should go to and stuff like that. And she was just really nice. She introduced some different programs that I went to Persian High School. It's not the best school in Detroit
Mm.
at all. And she introduced a lot of programs that I feel like we wouldn't have been able to. Like we got to try out auto design. I got to like intern at GM with the guy who designed all the SS versions of the cars, stuff like that. And that's when I really considered it like, oh, wow, I can do this as a career. You know what I mean? Like, this is
Right.
something that's not just fun that people do as a pastime. And she really started like pushing that in me. And I feel like that's when I decided that I wanted to be an art teacher. You know what I mean? So that was my intro into being an artist. I wanted to be an art teacher because I was like, grown-ups look miserable. You know what I mean? They all hate their jobs.
Yeah.
They try staying up late don't seem like it's worth paying bills. That's what I used to always say out loud. And but now I met my teacher and I'm becoming a young adult. I'm like, oh, I can do this. I can show up and be cool with kids and practice art. And so that's when I decided to go to college. I didn't start to go to college until maybe like the end of 11th grade. You know what I mean? I didn't really have those ideas about like what I wanted to do. I was like, oh, I guess I'll just get a job and be miserable like the rest of the adults. But maybe like in 11th grade, I was like, oh, okay. If I became an art teacher or did art and was, teaching art, I would probably enjoy being an adult. That was my whole motivation. So I went to CCS, and I minored, and my major was art education and illustration because I like drawing. And I like drawing like comic booky type stuff. So I was like, oh, I can learn illustration and art education. And that's pretty much my schooling. I didn't finish CCS because I really had no plan financially when it came to school. I just went to school because they told you you're supposed to.
Right.
Uh, but it was super great. I found like my people. You know what I mean? All the people I'm still friends with to today. Some of the people I met in that art program with Singor Reed, they was in CCS with me that year. Um, and it was just like, wow, I found my community. You know what I mean? I started actually seeing the whole city through that lens, through as a being an art student and being an artist. Before I was just on the west side with my parents, and then when I was in high school, I was on the east side with my dad. So I only saw like these neighborhood parts of the city, and that pretty much like going to art school pretty much has started my whole journey of like getting into art and being cultured and having an opinion on art. So my education, I think, comes very late as an artist because I didn't have any family members who were creatives or nothing like that. It was something they just gave me to be quiet. But until I became an adult and decided that I need to figure out something for myself, That's when I decided I wanted to be an artist, and I really started pursuing, like, figuring out what I wanted. You know what I mean? Even after college, I just went to college because, you know, you're supposed to. But then I came out of college not even knowing, like, I know I had a skill and a talent, but, you know, what I wanted to express. You know, that's something I feel like I'm still figuring out to this day, and which I probably will always be figuring out as an
Right.
artist and reinventing and stuff. But I like to think that I'm most definitely a late bloomer when it comes to art education, for sure. But I enjoy that because I feel like it's very um authentic for me. You know what I mean? I'm very curious,
Yes.
not afraid to not know something. You know what I mean? And now that a lot of my peers are like accomplished artists, sometimes they might bring, you know, they might talk about art history or something like that, and I might not know about it, but I'm super eager to find out, and I love that about it. It feels new and fresh to me still, even at 35. So,
It's amazing to continue to learn
mhm,
about your craft.
most definitely.
So, you had actually had quite a big installation last year
Hmm.
at the Aretha Franklin Amphitheater, better known as Shane Park.
Hmm.
Last summer, you were doing digital pictures, I believe, and then you had them blown up and installed there, and they were of Motown legends. Could you
Hmm.
tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so that was my first public, like, art commission I ever got. I believe it was with the Gilbert Foundation and just whoever was developing that area down there.
Mhm.
And I think it was Library Street was working with them.
Yeah, I
And
believe so.
it was one of many things they did down there. So it was my installation that was on Shane. It was another installation by an artist named Patrick. I can't remember his last name, but he does a lot of light installations. His stuff is amazing. I think it was a Gilda Snowden who's past installation on that parking structure on the street around the corner. And another artist did a temporary painting on the ground. Um, oh man, what is that lady's name right now? I always mix her up with her sister. But she does like abstract shapes that are really cool. They're all over the city. Um, but yeah, it was an installation they did with all of us and part of that. And and that was my first time doing it. It was really fun. I mean, it was really challenging too because they told me they wanted, like, they saw that I did portrait work and they wanted me to do some portraits. And they gave me the guideline. They wanted to be like Motown X people. And and they wanted Aretha Franklin to be one of the people, and I could pretty much pick all the rest of them. And it was interesting because Aretha Franklin wasn't on Motown. I found out through doing that, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
But she just gets lumped into those artists and stuff like that. So
I don't think I've
uh,
even known that.
yeah, me neither. You know what I mean? We people from Detroit, we just, you know, it's all the same thing sometimes. But
But she's from here, so
yeah. So so from that, you know, I feel like it might have gave me some more freedom to put other artists. It's just that era of music, or, you know, when we think about that older style of music. So I just started looking up, you know, different music songs that I knew and that I liked, and what the artists that were part of them, and and then I just started thinking about trying to have a balance of like men and women artists and stuff like that, just so it looked, you know, cool instead of just having a bunch of dudes up there. And I actually originally was going to hand paint all of them. I was going
oh
to hand
wow.
paint all of them, and I think they brung it to me as an idea as light banners, like the banners they put on those light poles.
Yeah.
But I guess as the developers kept coming up with ideas, they changed that idea to those solid things that light up. So that became another challenge because they involved me in that whole process, like with the developers and the architects and stuff. And at the time, I was doing commercial floor laying. So like I was on job sites a lot, seeing like architects and the planners and stuff have their little meetings in the mornings and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, I'm just doing the labor, doing floor laying. So it was interesting in that same moment to be on those teams as an artist. You know what I mean? And they asking me all these questions as an artist. A lot of things I didn't even know, like the material names for the clear plastic. They were
Mhm.
asking me, what do I want? You know, and I'm sitting
Man,
there
that's good that
Googling.
they've had you a part of that, though.
Oh yeah, that's what I mean. It was so cool. I feel like the real deal. You know what I mean? Like I've been doing art my whole life, and I'm the real deal. But it was like my first big project type thing. So that was exciting. It was new. You know what I mean? and it was challenging because like they were figuring it out, and by the time they actually got to me the dimensions of what I needed to create my art for, it was way later in the timeline that they had put out for me. So that's when I decided to do them digitally, and I had never did anything digitally that I brung
That was
out.
your first one?
Yeah, I mean, I've used digital work to like come up with ideas,
But
or
not for an installation.
yeah, or to combine ideas and then use it as a painting or something like that. But I never like showed anything I did digitally as finished work. So it was very nervous. I was very nervous for that because it was like I was learning on it, you know what I mean? But it ended up making it really fun. And after a while, it made it easier to let go because I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm learning on it. You know what I mean? It's going to be something new for me. You know what I mean?
It's a good learning
You know,
experience. Yep.
yeah, I think it came out fun. At first, I had all these expectations of how I wanted it to look. Like the painting I did for you and your family, uh, that was a part of a practice I was doing. I was doing 9x12 paintings for $100. So I just wanted to just keep practicing with my portraits and just give myself, um, some reasons to practice doing a bunch of portraitures. And I really like that. I really remember you guys is because I wasn't trying to like get any level of like realism out of that painting. I was mostly just trying to like go into it like an impressionistic type of vibe and just kind of make sure I got the feeling of it. And I think that's what you were speaking to, and that's why I kind of felt like it had a lot of movement into it. And the similar thing, the techniques I learned from that, I was kind of trying to use in these digital paintings, and just using shapes, putting them together, and make sure it reads to the reference, and they turned out good. You know what I mean? When they first put them up, I felt the way about them because it's my first time. You know, we were biggest critics and stuff like that. But the response I got from people who saw them really made me just appreciate the opportunity and the effect it had on people. Like it's a school near there. I think it's like a science school. And somebody, I think they took like let the kids go down there, and somebody I knew who worked there told me like how much they loved them and all that kind of stuff. And to this day, I have family members who come to the city to see other family members, and they make that a point to go visit that. So it
That
brings me a
feel
lot of
good.
joy to know that people loved it there. You know what I mean? I don't even know how long they plan on keeping it there. I imagine eventually they're gonna, refresh it with something else since they built the structures. But it's super a thing of pride for me that that I was chosen
Yes.
to do that. You know what I mean? And yeah, that I was able to do it, and it was my first project, and it's still there. So
That's great.
yeah,
How did let me ask you this. How did growing up in Detroit shape your journey into being an artist?
man, I feel like I had two different chapters of life. You know what I mean? I feel like as a kid, like I'm pretty sure it shaped me who I am as an artist, for sure. But I feel like it was like a whole nother chapter. I wasn't even thinking about nothing like that. You know what I mean? Like I have friends who are artists who you can tell from inception of life they was artists. You know what I mean? Like the way they was moving, the way they thought the self express. I feel like as a kid, I was just out here searching, and as an adult, you know what I mean. But it's a little bit more focused, and but as a kid, I don't know. I'm very like a loving person. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's how it's affected me as an artist. Like I'm still a very loving person. I was raised with a lot of love, and a lot of my opportunities I've gotten as an artist has been from like making relationships with people, and just like I think people, uh, once they get to know me, they just know that I'm a good person, and you know what I mean. They know I make art, and they kind of just like people like to work with good people. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I think like just the love that I was raised with, because I know that's my superpower. Like between all my friends and all my, you know, the situations, people always like speak of my who I am. You know what I mean? So I think just being raised by super loving people and having compassionate parents is really what made me who I am as an artist, and made me like just want to try new things and never want to be afraid of reinventing myself. I have young parents, so
Yes.
I grew up with my parents, and that's one reason I'm never afraid to restart, because I have to watch them restart and re idealize themselves. So I
That's
don't,
real.
yeah,
So you were a photographer before you started art, correct?
yes, sir.
And
Not before I started art, but that's
when you were
one thing I
younger?
pursued professionally as an artist is doing
Okay.
photography. Yeah.
So you had spoke about being late to become an embracing art professionally.
Mhm.
Was photography a part of taking that leap into being a professional artist?
Um, I feel like photography is easier associated with the brain as a job. You know what I mean? At least for me, it was. And like when I started doing photography, was not long. So I was going to college for art. I dropped out for personal reasons, and the whole time I was dropped out, I really wasn't practicing art. I was trying to make money. I had like, some new responsibilities. I had to make money, so I was working a lot, and I felt like I needed to practice my creativity. You know what I mean? Like I needed some type of thing. I was starting to feel like bugged down. I was like, oh, I'm just going to work. So I always knew I wanted to learn lighting because when I was in college, one of the things I learned about in college was like Keras. I forget how to pronounce it. It's like I think it's an Italian word for like one light source
Uh,
paintings that are lit from one source, like Caravaggio and those paintings you see on the if you go in the DIA through the Wilbur entrance and you turn south, all those painting styles. I was really into that. And one of my first
Respect
oil
it.
paintings. Yeah, one of my first oil paintings is in that style. I still have it. And so I wanted to learn photography, how to manipulate light to make references to make paintings like that. So I started teaching myself photography, and since I was working so much, I had enough money to buy a camera. So I bought like a nice camera, and I just started like teaching myself little lighting and just playing around with it. And then I would, take little gigs for my family and stuff like that. And I had other friends who did photography, and I started, building a creative community again. And I just made myself a photography business because I was working at the plant, and I wanted something I could do that wasn't, just working. And I really enjoyed it. I feel like I did good at it, but uh it kind of it was so much like a work, and it was really hard for me to inspire people to be comfortable in front of the camera. You know what I mean? Even like when you're photographing people for like an event or something, and people just don't be having no swag around, or they nervous. I don't know what it is. But you gotta like and put some confidence in them, and I had no interest in that. No interest in that. And I'm just like, oh my God. So I was like, what? I like photography, but I like it more so as a tool, you know what I mean? And or a tool for reference. And I like to do like artistic photography, but I don't really share it. You know what I mean? It's something for myself.
You often work with the themes of natural beauty and community. What inspires those types of themes?
I feel like a lot of what inspired that is just drawing from around me. Uh but a lot of it, like I said, coming from being a late bloomer, you know what I mean? Just having talent and reaching out to what's around me, what inspired me to to build that. You know what I mean? Uh, like a part of like now me like doing um murals of like my musician friends, that's intentional like community stuff. But beforehand, it really wasn't intentional. It was just like, I have friends that are creative. Let me ask them to be in my paintings, or you know what I mean? People appreciate my art, and whenever I usually make success from my art is from sharing it. So like we're doing like the little pop ups to give myself more opportunity to practice and have some more money for paint, stuff like that. You know what I mean? It wasn't really like intentionally community. It was just like I didn't have any artistic family or creative family. So like all my training, I feel like as an artist came from my community, you know what I mean? From people like Singor and Carol and my friends like Sheaf and all them kind of people, and just seeing like other people's avenues of being creative and figuring out what part of those imprint on me and how I want to do it the way I want. You know what I mean?
Answering
So
questions I've already ready to ask.
yeah, so like that's I feel like that's why my artwork seems like it reflects community. And what was the other thing you said? Community and what else?
Like natural beauty.
Uh, yeah, natural beauty thing. I don't know. I guess I'm just a naturalist, bro.
I
Like,
think it's you see it and you copy it with such passion and such
uh,
perfection. It's just your artwork is beauty, I guess, in itself.
yeah, I don't know. I feel like because I got into art from realism. I really like realism. You know what I mean? I think the first like painter I was really into was Chuck Close, and then
Mhm.
once I was in art school, I started seeing other artists who looked like me who were that good. You know what I mean? So I met artists. One friend of mine named I think his name is Alfonso or Alonzo, and Mario, who everybody knows now. Those were like,
Yeah.
wow, these guys can paint just as good as these other dudes. You know what I mean? And so like once I saw that, I was like, oh, I can do it. But now, when I do a realistic painting, halfway through it, I'm bored. I'm over it. So like now I try to get to a point where I'm not so critical of what's right and wrong. And I just kind of just try to make shapes with the utensils that I'm using. You know what I mean? So like I like to be able to tell this is made with a paintbrush. I like to be able to tell this is made with like some type of pastel or something now. So I think that's where I like to show the materials I'm using when I create now. So that has a natural effect to it, I would assume.
Is there any lessons that you've learned as a professional artist, whether it's dealing with your career, managing
Mhm.
relationships with people you've collaborated with, or just, people that are buying the art from you?
Man, I learn lessons every freaking day I wake up as this lifestyle that I chose. And a lot of them are hard. A lot of them like I don't know, but I think the biggest lesson is for me is like just creating your own lane. You know what I mean? Like that's the biggest takeaway and the biggest thing that the biggest allure I feel like to wanting to be a creative or entrepreneur. And that's one of the lessons too is from me deciding I wanted to be an art teacher and an artist as a kid until now is realizing that's a decision to be an entrepreneur and how to like format your creativity into your entrepreneurship. You know what I mean? It's something I'm always learning about. Um, because as a kid, you kind of want to be an artist. One of the reasons you want is because you just want some that freedom. And that's what's alluring to me now. And the challenging part is just like not letting myself fall into comparisons or a lane of what's expected to me and always to like take the chance to just create what I want for myself. You know what I mean? And do it in that way. And sometimes that makes me feel like, I'm trying or I might fail at something, but um I don't know. I feel like just having that grace. And that's one of the biggest lessons, having grace with myself to learn, try and fail and try again and try again and try again. And to
Extremely
let
important.
yeah, and let go of like this idea of that resources are finite. You know what I mean? I just kind of remind myself through like just continuing to go and trying over and over again that it's like I can just keep going forever. You know what I mean? I think
Right.
that's the biggest turn away because whether I make success creatively or entrepreneurially as an artist or not, I still have the opportunity to keep trying a different method. You know what I mean? And that's what I like about it. It's not so rigid and rewarding as a typical person's thing and they like vocation they will enjoy doing.
Right. So I read in an article about you and your work that you you mentioned you wanted to create opportunities for young artists.
Mhm.
How would you hope to make that possible?
Man, I have a lot of ideas around that. And the ways I do it now is just like teaching, like that same program that I was in. I told you with. I ended up teaching. Uh, I think 2 summers I taught. Yeah, first summer I taught it by myself, and second summer I taught it with another artist, which was really nice. And actually, just like 2 weeks ago, I met one of those artists from that program who goes to Wayne State now. She's like on the student council, and she was just
Wow.
telling me how like that opportunity opened her eyes to like just trying different mediums and stepping outside of her comfort zone. And I was just like, wow, that's crazy that this what seems like a small just summer art program that I went through as a kid had such a big effect on me, and already I can meet somebody who has had effect on that when I taught it. You know what I mean? So like stuff like that, just like giving people because like I told you, when I was a kid on the West Side, I had no idea of like the culture that that was at access to me in Detroit. You know what I mean? Just like the things that can be interesting besides the regular things, people besides sports and stuff like that. So many layers and so much depth to so much culture that I had nothing about. That if I was around more people like me now, I feel like I would be even deeper to it at my age now. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I remember where I left off at. So yeah, so that's the ways I try to show up for people. Before I wanted to teach, you know what I mean? That was one of my biggest things, to be an art teacher. And I feel like I might come back to that, but now I feel like my focus is more on just self-development right now. I feel like as an artist, like I have a lot of talent still, but I feel like I need a stronger voice. So like now my focus is less of like, community and youth development and just self-development, you know what I mean? And pouring into myself so I can have something more substantial to pour into others. You know what I mean? Because before, I feel like since I wanted to be a teacher, I was so focused on technique and skill. And that's great. I love that. And it's fun for me. But now I feel like I want to have more of a voice in a recognizable style. So that's more so what I'm focusing on rather than outside things.
I love when I hear people say that they want to do better for themselves to help other people. And you say to pour into others. And I always say that you can't pour from an empty cup. So build yourself up so you can help out other people the way you truly want to.
Yeah, that's a double-edged sword, I feel like, from being raised in such a giving and loving manner. I'm so giving to a fault, to a super fault. You know what I mean? So it's like, oh man, I really have to remind myself, like, Darius, you got to make sure you got your stuff together before you giving it. So like,
before we wrap up, we're gonna do something called One More Crown, where I'm gonna ask you, I know it's a little bit on the spot, but I'm gonna ask you if there's somebody that you would like to see on this show that highlight them because you actually yourself, you truly feel that they've earned their crown, whether it's another artist, maybe a musician, maybe a entrepreneur, anything. Is there anybody you could think of?
Man, I could think of a lot, so it's hard narrowing down. Oh man, man, you know Victoria, don't you?
Vegas?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Has she been on the show already?
I've interviewed her. Yeah. I actually got her piece that she did of me over here underneath the.
She already been on the show, hasn't she?
Yep.
Dang.
She's great. Yes.
Hey, Victoria the GOAT, but we gonna save another person since she been on the show. Who's somebody who I think is the GOAT? Man. I feel like I will say this person, but they got enough escalades. I ain't gonna say them. Oh man, I'm overwhelmed with names right now.
How about you think of one and I'll give you mine so far?
Okay, give me yours.
So the person who I want to shout out and highlight, I would love to have him on the show. He actually has his own podcast. His name is Denzel Turner. He has a podcast called Black Fridays Podcast. And he interviews inspiring Black individuals from Detroit or the surrounding areas. And he's actually invited me to a podcast pull-up, like a gathering of other podcasters. This was a couple months back. And it was great that I got to meet up with other people that are in the same type of realm and are interviewing people that I might interview myself. So I want to give a shout out to Denzel. Thank you. You keep doing your thing because he's been a bit of a mentor for me, and he's got quite a good show over there. So if anybody's listening and watching, go check out the Black Fridays podcast and hit up Denzel. Go check it out. So who do you got?
You telling me that helped me solidify mine. So a good friend of mine is an artist that goes by the name of Juniper Jones.
Okay.
And yeah, we used to be next door neighbors. And when we first were next door neighbors, they were always creative, but they were focusing on a podcast at the time called Blacks with Blues. And it was really cool. And now they're really deep into like their DJing journey, which I feel like led to that. well, when the podcast, I think it was like more of a radio show, I guess, which is a podcast now, but yeah. So, they're visual artists too. They actually are going to school in California right now, but they're from Detroit, and they just finished like their senior show or whatever. I think they're graduating this year, but their artwork is amazing. Their artwork is centered around like their queer and fluid identity, and it's a lot of like writing, which is like my kryptonite. So I really appreciate people who are good at writing. It's a lot of writing and like paintings and drawings that pretty much is speaking to like family dynamics, just fluidity, period, visually, and like physically and mentally. And it's just so cool how deep and natural their practice is with their artwork. You know what I mean? How like expressive of a person they are. They inspire me all the time. Like when I talk to them about art, you know what I mean? Or I talk to them about their practice or how they going about into using their materials and stuff like that. It's super inspiring for me. And
that's awesome.
Yeah,
so
that's
Juniper Jones.
Yeah, Juniper Jones. Everybody should look them up.
Look them up. Darius thinks you've earned your crown. So
amazing work for sure. For sure, earned their crown. You know what I mean? When I first met them, they used to call me they art uncle. They like the uncle now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They are uncle for sure. So yeah, I really am inspired by them. And that's why you only want one, because I got more too.
No, just one for now. You send me a list. Go ahead. You send me a list.
Okay.
I'll take it.
I'll send you a list for sure.
Well, thank you so much, Darius, for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it. And I've enjoyed this conversation. And I
enjoyed too. We gotta have more. I enjoyed you inviting me, and sorry for the mess ups on my raggedy phone.
Oh, no, that's all right. Technology, shit happens. It's all right. Well, I'm your host, Robert Solano Sanchez, and reminding you, don't forget to shop small, support local artists, and check out Darius's work, please.
Yes, sir.
This is the Motor City Crowns podcast, where passion reigns and excellence is crowned. I will see you next time. Thank you.